We have had some technical difficulties here. We're running about 15 minutes behind, but you still have 45 minutes to bid on your favorite auction items. But while you're thinking about that, we're going to spend the next few minutes. Actually, you've got more than that. You got over an hour to hour and 45 minutes to bid on this stuff. Hour and 15 minutes. I'll get it right. I'll keep grappling until I come up with a good answer. But good evening and welcome to the 2023 Wildlife Center of Virginia online auction and gala. And the online part threw us a bit of a curve tonight, as you can see. But we hope we're getting to you now. And we want to thank you for the enthusiastic participation in some of our online events this week. And especially for those of you who have been bidding on auction items since last weekend. The bidding, just as a reminder, will close at 9 o'clock sharp Eastern time. For those of you who are bidding from other time zones, you don't get a break and you don't get deference. 9 o'clock Eastern time. And right now I show it as 7:45 Eastern time. So an hour and 15 minutes from now, the auction will close. But before we do, we've got a lot of stuff to share with you about what's going on at the Wildlife Center. A few things to tell you about some of the auction items that many of you have already started to bid on, but we hope some others may spark an interest. But before we go any further, I would like very much to thank our sponsors for the 2023 event. And really let you know how much we truly appreciate your support. Dale Bateman and his wife, Sarah, are dear friends. They are our Bald Eagle sponsors. Sarah and I have known each other longer than Dale and I, but Dale has been on our board for a number of years and is our board treasurer, but they're more importantly, dear friends and generous donors to the Wildlife Center. And we have wonderful sponsors in other categories. Our Bobcat sponsors are there. We have just so many, the Black Bear sponsors, the Bobcat sponsors, the Peregrine sponsors. All of these folks have donated to make this event possible. And while it's not as expensive for us as the old in-person events were, where we were buying dinners and paying for open bars and that sort of thing, it's not free to do this type of thing. And it takes staff time, it takes resources, it takes the licensing of software. And these sponsors are the ones who underwrite it all. And we acknowledge them, we thank them. And the truth is, we couldn't do what we do without them. And most importantly, without you. The Wildlife Center in 2023 so far has had a big year. It has every appearance this year that we are going to set a new record, shatter a new record. This is not necessarily good news for patient intake. We are already 2 months ahead of where we were last year. The patients we admitted this week were not admitted last year, and we number them. So we're at well over 3,800 patients this year, which was about where we finished last year. So depending on the weather, depending on the circumstances, we could shatter previous patient intake records. Now, that's bad news because all of those animals are being injured, but it's good news because people out there care enough to bring those animals in when they find them injured or orphaned or displaced. But the better news is that we are here for them. We are able to care for them, provide for their needs, deliver the therapies, the rehabilitation, the nurture that they need to have the best chance possible of returning to the wild, able to function normally and fulfill their natural role in the environment, the ecosystem, and the habitat. We've been at this a long time now. We are just a few weeks away from our 41st anniversary of the establishment of the Wildlife Center. So 10 days ago, October 3rd, was the day 41 years ago when the first conversation was had about we need a wildlife rehabilitation center in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And that conversation was very lighthearted and not really serious when we started the conversation. But by the time that conversation was over, we were determined. There are four of us who founded the Wildlife Center of Virginia, Dr. Stuart Porter, Terry Porter, his wife, Nancy Sheffield, and myself. We decided that it was time for the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and indeed the state of Virginia, to have a professionally staffed wildlife hospital 41 years ago. So I can tell you, in 41 years, I've earned every one of these white hairs, and the solar panel in back is my way of staying current with sustainable energy to keep things going. But right now, we really are looking back on a year that has been full of many, many accomplishments. We have done so much over the last 41 years. And as the founder, co-founder of the center, a lot of people say, oh, you've done such a great job. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the great job that I do is hiring world-class people and then getting out of their way. If you attended any of our Meet the Staff programs earlier this evening, the online interviews and discussions and chats with our outstanding team of professionals, you know what I'm talking about. I would take our team at the Wildlife Center and put them up against anybody in the world. We truly have an outstanding team of people there to not only meet the needs of the animals that come in, but teach the world to care about and care for wildlife and the environment, which of course is our mission statement. Now, in addition to caring for all of these animals, the nearly 4,000 animals we're likely to have admitted by the end of this year, we've participated in a number of public policy endeavors. We've helped create the 10-year management plan for black bear management in the state of Virginia. And for the first time, the health and welfare of individual animals is actually now a priority for our state government. First time ever that individual animals have ever been mentioned in a wildlife management plan, which have always previously focused on population numbers. We've been doing research. We've contributed to national causes. We are getting ready in about a month to host the Call of the Wild conference, which we've been doing for a very long time. We think this is going to be one of our best and one of our largest. We may be including 400 wildlife rehabilitation professionals from across the United States and around the world, and sharing with them what we've learned and what other people have learned about the improvement of care of wildlife and the application of the knowledge we gain to the discussion of public policy issues and conservation concerns. So there's so much going on, and there's so much that is left to do. Your participation in the auction tonight, your participation in our activities throughout the year, your year-end giving, it all matters more than you can possibly know. So before we go much further, I would like to invite you to join me in watching a quick video that recaps some of the things going on at the Wildlife Center and lets you know about some of the things that we do that you might not otherwise know, and reminds you of some of the things that you may have known and may not remember. So if Larry, if you can roll that video for us. Thank you.
The Wildlife Center of Virginia is the nation's leading veterinary hospital for native wildlife. The center has earned a reputation around the world as an effective and innovative force for wildlife conservation. Patients come into the Wildlife Center 7 days a week. Most are brought in directly by private citizens who have found the animal, but the Wildlife Center also has a statewide network of transporters to help get animals in for treatment.
We're here at the front desk at the Wildlife Center of Virginia. where our front desk staff receives thousands and thousands of phone calls and emails and in-person inquiries from members of the public each year.
Absolutely, and thanks for calling.
In fact, we are currently on pace to admit more animals in 2023 than we have in any other previous year in our history. And I am very grateful that we have the staff to help
getting
keep up with that
ready
need
in
and also provide the direction and assistance people need to help navigate and educate themselves on how to better help wildlife going forward.
Regardless of how many animals of the same species may come in or how busy the staff may be, each animal receives the highest quality care and the most thorough examination possible.
We are here in the treatment room at the Wildlife Center of Virginia, and this is one of the busiest parts of the hospital. This is where we're doing treatments every single day on our current patients that are in our hospital, but also admitting new patients. I love the work I do here teaching at the Wildlife Center of Virginia, and that is really impactful, I feel. If I can teach these people to care for these animals here, they can take those skills back to their own home countries and home communities, and it makes it really feel like my teaching here has an impact much more broadly and potentially worldwide. Over the last year in our hospital, we've hosted 26 vet externs from 6 different countries, as well as 3 veterinary technician externs from all over North America. Those students were able to come here and learn with us, learn hands-on skills that they can take back to their own communities working with their local wildlife. From little things like the syringes we use every day in our hospital, all the way up to big pieces of equipment like a new radiology machine, all these things are funded by donors like you, and we truly couldn't do the work we do here without your support.
During the examination of nearly all of the injured patients, the veterinarian will need to know more about an animal than can be seen with the naked eye. These tests often disclose problems which would otherwise go undetected. Blood samples will be taken from wing or leg veins, then turned over to the laboratory staff for further testing.
We are in radiology right now. This is the main room where our sample collection for our research studies occurs. Ultimately, those samples that contribute to the research that's being done helps us understand at a population level what is happening around us and gives us a better understanding of, broader trends. Every patient that comes through our doors has the potential to contribute to, wildlife medicine and kind of advancing the field as a whole. So all of that is made possible by the donations of our supporters, and we couldn't do it without you guys.
The Wildlife Center must be constantly prepared to care for animals as small as hummingbirds or as large as black bears. An important part of the patient's recovery is nutritional support. For some patients, they will eat everything in sight. This baby gray squirrel hungrily pursues the food being presented through the syringe. Within just a few weeks, this baby will be strong enough to eat on his own. Eagles, hawks, owls, and other large birds have more than 45,000 cubic feet in which to get the exercise they need to rebuild muscles that have grown weak during hospitalization. There are more than 50 different outdoor enclosures in all at the Wildlife Center, from deer yards to turtle pens, which can accommodate the center's patients and education animals. Each cage is cleaned and serviced daily.
Thanks to your support, we've been able to expand and improve our animal care. This year we received donations of reptile vision cages and turtle hutches behind me. Every year it seems like we're getting more and more patients, and so with all these donations and your care and your support, we've been able to accept more and more patients and take care of them properly, and it's been a huge help.
One of my favorite memories working here with the rehab team is when we work together with the bears. It was usually our time since we're the only ones that get to work with them. One of the funnest memory, I think, it was when Mac took the duck in with the bears, which they love. They love. Every other day, every time we were cleaning up there, somebody was on that duck.
Snuggling up to it, dragging it around.
Yeah. We found it in different places pretty much every day. That dog went through some things.
Definitely got its use. I think the thing that I love about this job the most and what makes it so special to me is that every day we're seeing different patients, new cases that come in for wide variety of reasons, and then we have the ability to rehabilitate them, treat their injuries, treat their wounds, raise them if they're orphan babies, and get to see that process full through all the way to the end.
We literally make a difference with every patient that we rehabilitate and release. We're basically living the dream of every rehabber, right? Because we have this wonderful center.
While the new facility means more space and the opportunity to do many more things, it has also meant a great deal more work for the animal care staff and for the volunteers. But all will agree that the results of this labor are more than worth the effort.
Volunteers are an integral part of the Wildlife Center team. We could not do what we do here without their help. We currently have approximately 60 active volunteers. We also added 32 new volunteers to our team this year. In addition, we have more than 300 volunteer transporters who assist in getting injured wildlife where they need to go. It's wonderful that we have so many dedicated volunteers who are willing to donate their time, energy, and skills to our mission. Working alongside them towards a common goal is incredibly gratifying, and we are so grateful for everything that they provide to us.
And I feel that the education of children with an environmental message is probably the place that we can spend most of our, where most money can be spent with the greatest positive potential impact to the environment. Because the next generation is either going to make it or break it.
This year, the Outreach Department has been able to connect with thousands of people worldwide through about 100 education programs and events. These have included our summer library series throughout the state of Virginia, our monthly hospital cams, and our online book club discussions, and even our 40th anniversary homecoming celebration events. With the help of our education ambassadors, we've been able to connect with people and share the stories and lessons learned about the thousands of wild animals that have come through the center's doors this year. This past summer, we had the opportunity to work with a 6-year-old girl named Lois who really wanted to host her very own black tie fundraiser for her classmates. And Lois ended up raising more than $2,500 for the Wildlife Center. It was a really wonderful example of being able to connect people of all ages to the work that goes on at the Wildlife Center every day. Without your support, none of this would have been possible, and you truly are a part of our mission every single day of the year as we teach people to care about and care for wildlife and the environment.
The work of the Wildlife Center is indeed a labor of love. However, the Wildlife Center cannot exist on love alone. Your support will save wild lives and make the world a little brighter for all of us.
Nope. People's donations pay for that mouse that you're eating. Yeah, you should say thank you.
Wow, that was wonderful. It always chokes me up. I mean, how else can I put it? I had not seen that video before, and part of the soundtrack of that video was made when we moved into the Wildlife Center facility that we occupy now, but we have been in our current facility for 28 years. As hard as that is to believe, I still think of it as the new facility because I've been around for all of our 41 years. And I remember when we started in a barn, and then we were so excited because we moved into a double wide mobile home for our hospital. And that double wide mobile home was built for us specifically to our design. And it was the very first building in the United States that was built specifically to be a wildlife hospital. But I'm not the only one who's been around the Wildlife Center for more than a few years, although at her tender young age, you would never imagine it, that Amanda has almost 23 years with us. Is that right, Amanda? So you can.
Yeah, I'm getting to 22 and a half, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, who's splitting hairs? But
who's counting? I started when I was 8. I started when I was Lois's age. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, that's right. So joining me are Senior Vice President Amanda Nicholson, who has been with us 22 and a half years since she was, well, somewhere between 5 and 8 years old, and Randy Hua, who has been there a much shorter time, only about, 18 years? Is that about right?
17 and a half or 18, yeah.
See, they're so picky. They're just so picky. That's what makes my life so hard. But Randy, for many years, was our executive vice president, and he is trying for the second time to retire. But we have nailed one of his feet to the floor, so all we do is hand him a new business card. So his new title is Senior Advisor to the President. And boy, do I value his advice. But Amanda, what's on your mind tonight?
Oh, well, I'm just having a great time. I'm here at the center. I was here to take a very tiny part in the Meet the Ambassador room, but I've just been having a great time all week long. I think we've had some really fun programs. It's been really lovely to connect with all of our attendees and sponsors through the chats as these programs are going on. And yeah, it's really lovely. I think Gala night is always so nice to get to see different staff members. I love the Meet the Staff room that Dr. Cara hosted because I could see everybody and without masks, because we still mask here in the hospital. It was just so nice to have everybody all together, even though we are still doing this online and far apart. But I think it's really made it an accessible way to have people attend the gala. So, they don't have to fly here and stay in a hotel and everything. It's just nice to still find those ways to come together with such a lovely group of people who work here and support the center and, all just share a common passion.
Well, for me, it's and this, and our senior staff know this. One of the things that we try to do every year, and we don't always get it done, but we try to have some sort of a reception that brings our board of directors together, and it's an all volunteer board, very diverse group of people who are very dedicated to wildlife and conservation, and specifically to our organization, to bring them together with our staff. And one of the things that for many years has been the thing to which I look forward the most throughout the year, when everybody goes around and shares with the group, why are you here? What connects you to the Wildlife Center of Virginia? What makes this place and this organization and this work special to you? And tonight, the Meet the Staff program and some of the other stuff, and getting to watch the Meet the Ambassadors program and see how much camaraderie there is and how much genuine love of the animals and love of the work and love of the Wildlife Center. For those of us who've been here since Moby Dick was a minnow, we appreciate that. Now, speaking of elder statesmen, yeah, you saw that reaction. Let me pass the baton to my close friend and colleague, Randy Hua.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Senior Vice President, and welcome not only to the folks who I see on the screen here, but also our friends all across the country who are joining us this evening for this special gala. One of my jobs, when people ask, what do you do at the Wildlife Center of Virginia? One of the things I say is that I try to keep the trains on the tracks and running on time. So my job tonight is to be train master and to keep the trains running. We have, even as we're speaking, we have an auction going on that's raising vital funds that are so critical to our support. I love the video, Amanda, but I've got to say the part that I liked the very most was the very end, in which you said, you know, that mouse was paid for by people who made contributions. And the animal didn't say thank you. That would have been something exceptional, but we say thank you. That's part of the importance of this event, is not only to raise money, vital money that we need to support our operation, but also to say thank you for those of you who have helped. So thank you very much. Thank you for bidding. You have about 50 minutes left on bidding. My job, and I choose to accept it, is that we will be done with this section, this session at about 8:30. When you have an event on Friday the 13th, one should expect to have some technical difficulties. We have had some of those, but we're going to move along. We're going to briefly talk about some of the items just to make sure that you all are aware of them, to kind of bring them to your attention. But by 8:30, we're going to wrap it up so that you guys can go back to bidding. And I should tell you, bid early, bid often, because the bidding at the very end is pretty intense. So let me mention a couple of items that are not for sale. Lots of people say, well, I don't need any more stuff. I have too much stuff in my house. Fine. Here are some things in which you can help us buy stuff. Auction item number 3 is give turtles a helping hand. We are currently caring for about 24 turtles that will be with us until they're ready until the temperature warms up enough for us to be able to release them, and that will probably be May. So we are overwintering 24 turtles. In addition, we have another about 26 turtles that are part of a law enforcement action. There's a great deal of poaching that's going on with our native turtles. Those turtles are being captured, kidnapped, and sold overseas. And the Department of Wildlife Resources is working to try to crack down on that trade. As part of that effort, we are caring for 26 of those turtles. So we need new turtle enclosures, we need new turtle foods, turtle medicines. Your contribution to auction item 23 will help us take care of those turtles. We have a $5,000 match. If we can raise $5,000 on auction item 23, we have another couple of folks who are big fans and supporters of turtles who will match that $5,000. So please help us get that $5,000. Let me tell you just one little story about turtles. Last Saturday morning at about 8:30, I left our house to go to the local farmer's market and do some other errands. And I had not gone half a mile down our road when I saw a box turtle crossing Booton's Lane. Stopped, got out, helped him across the way, patted myself on the back, feeling that I had done a good job. I drove about another quarter mile. As I was going down the road, I thought there was a funny looking leaf in the road. So I stopped and I went back, and it wasn't a leaf. It was a turtle, a pretty small turtle, only about that big, that had been hit by a car. So I put him in the back of the truck and of the car. I drove him over the mountains to Waynesboro and checked him in. I don't know how that turtle is doing. I suspect that his injuries were too severe. But I've got to say, I was reminded anew of how important it is that we have a wildlife center in Virginia. Because when I found that turtle, I had a place to go. So Ed, thank you for doing this for 41 years. And Amanda, thank you for doing this for 22 and a half years. And those of you who've made donations and are buying items right now, thank you for that, because those contributions, those purchases, that partnership made it possible for me to take that turtle over to Waynesboro, and will make it possible for us to care to probably 4,000 patients this year. So auction item number 23 is turtles. The next auction item is similar, a little broader. Auction item number 24 is a record caseload. As Ed talked to you about early on, we have a record caseload. We're at 3,800 patients and counting. We've never seen this number of patients. Fall is going to be busy. Fall is usually a time when our caseload goes down. it seems to be pretty strong. Looking at Amanda pulled some numbers for me in terms of the patients we admitted in September. We admitted a bunch of bald eagles. Ed's releasing 2 bald eagles next week, by the week on next week on Monday and Wednesday. If you're in the area, go to those eagle releases. It's a great opportunity. We admitted 14 crows. I remember, Ed, not too many years ago when the crow population in Madison County was gone. There were no crows here.
Well, and a reason that many of the crows we're admitting now, as I overheard the other day, is the same reason they were gone from Madison County. It's West Nile virus. And those are the patients we are receiving. But now we know how to diagnose it, and now we know how to help them survive it.
Our crow population right now is strong, but there's a center there to help them. Your contribution to auction item number 24 will help us meet the costs of caring for our patients this fall. We have another person who stepped forward with a $5,000 match for this item as well. So if we can raise $5,000 for auction item 24, we double those contributions. We'll get another $5,000. So those 2 auction items, auction item 23, 24, if you've got money left over from bidding, if you don't get the item that you have your heart set on, you got a little extra pocket change. If you'd like to make a contribution, please do that to 23 and 24. Those auction items will stay open after 9 o'clock. The other items will not. The other items will close at 9 o'clock, which is 44 minutes away. So let's go. Amanda, I think you're going to talk to us about CritterCam. Go.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we thought we would just highlight just a couple of the amazing auction items that we have, maybe ones that require a little more explanation. So one of those items is CritterCam driving. So this is an experience. You don't have to come here. We're not physically handing you or shipping you anything. You can stay from the comfort of your own home. You can wear your pajama pants and eagle slippers. And basically, you will get 24 hours of access to a back end of a CritterCam of your choosing. It could be Buddy Cam. It could be one of the bear cams. It could be one of the big cameras in a flight pen that patients stay in. So we don't know who's in it. And basically, you will have access to drive this pan tilt zoom camera around, and you can zoom in on, like look up the bear's nostrils or zoom in on rocks or whatever. You're behind the steering wheel. It does come with some coaching. I have a guide written up to try and help people do that, but really it's like there's no experience like just getting in there and doing it. I will admit, I think often of our dearly departed Congo Wings on this one because in the past she has helped me coach winners on driving. I think I have, there's some lovely, wonderful, newer, younger staff at the front desk who are actually really great at driving the cams because they do it all the time now since we hooked them up with this a few weeks ago. So maybe they will help coach as well. But you get a day's worth of CritterCam driving, and it's a lot of fun because you're in control. It's like a lot of power. So
that's item number 7.
Yes.
Amanda.
Oh.
Number 16. How about number 16? I think that
number
may be the next one.
16 is a historic item at the Wildlife Center and a matter of cultural significance.
Yeah. Yeah, Elvis predates me a long time ago as a traditional auction item, and I'm sure, a lot of people have an Elvis story. Actually, I would really encourage our viewers out there, if you have encountered Elvis in your life, please tell us in the chat box there. This is also kind of an experience. Where this item will get you the ability, the control over this amazing, beautiful Elvis lamp that is kind of bigger than life size. I think his head is much larger than mine, actually. But you get to choose where you put this lamp for the next 1 year. So you do have to give it back to us because Elvis has seen a lot. He's lived a lot. It's a lot. But you can choose, do you want to put it in your boss's office? Do you want to give it to your college roommate? Do you want to send it to Ed's cabin?
No. They don't want to do that.
Do you want it to look over Connor's shoulder as he does his work here at the center? I don't know. You
Much better idea. Much better idea.
Elvis does come with a variety of outfits now, holiday attire. I was gifted Elvis for a year. He sat here in this office, and I decorated him for the holidays. Randy, you have just had him for the past year.
I have had him. I have returned him in fine form, and he is available for 1 year. Remember, this is a use of Elvis for 1 year. That is auction item number 16. Mr. President,
Sir,
the next item we're going to talk about is number 5, a bourbon tasting with you.
all right. Well, it's probably not even a well-kept secret. It's one of the things a lot of people know about me is that in addition to loving wildlife, I have become an obsessive collector and connoisseur of fine American whiskey, bourbon. And I'm embarrassed to say that if my house ever catches fire, wherever you are in the country, you will see the blue flame, and it will burn for about 6 months. But this particular experience that I've been pleased to do is for up to 8 people, and I will do it anywhere within, let's say, 150 miles of the Wildlife Center. But if we're special friends or it's an especially generous auction bid, I might consider going further than that. But essentially what we do is you and 8 of your friends can get together. I bring everything, and I will teach you about bourbon. Bourbon is an American whiskey that everybody thinks is only from Kentucky. It's not. Primarily, it's from Kentucky, but there are many fine things that people know about it. It's become the most popular alcoholic beverage in the United States. And for those of us that like the rare brands of bourbon, that's really something we lament because you can't find the stuff that's hard to get. But I've got it, and I'll bring it to you. So we will do 3 flights, which basically are a series of 3 different selections of very fine bourbon. The first is a flight that looks at the impact of the barrel, the aging process. To be called bourbon, it must be distilled from a mash of 51% or greater corn. It must be aged in a barrel that is made of brand new white oak, cannot be a used barrel and be called bourbon. And from there, the variety is really diverse. So the first thing we will look at is the effect of the barrel. Barrels are charred on the inside, and the barrels are kept in warehouses that have no climate control. So the heat and the cooling of the barrel, because there's a deliberate airspace left in the barrel, cause the liquid to go into and out of the grain of the wood, passing through the charcoal of the charring. And that's where all of the color in bourbon comes from. Bourbon that goes into the barrel straight from the still is absolutely clear. We'll look at brand new bourbon straight from the still, 4-year-old bourbon, 7-year-old bourbon, and 10-year-old bourbon, and you'll be able to see and taste the difference that aging makes. Then we'll look at recipes, looking at wheated bourbon, high rye bourbon, and bourbon that has a high degree of malted barley, a rare type of bourbon, but one that's increasingly popular. And finally, we'll look at finish. After the bourbon is aged in the normal process, a lot of distillers are now putting it into finishing barrels that may be sherry barrels or a brandy cask or something to just give it a little extra flavor from the oak. And I will bring at least 10, more likely 12 brands of bourbon. No, your guests will still be able to drive home. We're not doing full pours. But by the end of the day, you will know a lot about bourbon, and you will have enjoyed learning in the process. So bit early, bit often. And this is something I've been doing for charities for about 10 years, and nobody has ever left without being satisfied and having stated that they've enjoyed it very much.
Auction item number 5, the bourbon tasting with Ed. Amanda, lucky number 13. Day at the Wildlife Center. You have 1 minute. Go.
Look, this is your opportunity to come and hang out with the staff for a whole day. We will jam pack your day as much as you can possibly stand. We hosted this year's winners just this past May and had so much fun with them. They saw morning treatments. They helped in the kitchen. They made turtle meals. They helped, shuttle meals around to animals. They got to hang out with some education ambassadors. They got to have lunch with the bear moms. We will load up the day as much as possible. We have a lot of fun. I know Dr. Cara also loves this a lot, hosting people and being able to show them, what goes on here every day behind the scenes and put you to work too.
You may think you know the Wildlife Center of Virginia, but let me tell you that this is the best possible tutorial you could ever take. It's for you and a group of friends. It's a wonderful day. In fact, we've had people who have won this item in the past who are bidding on it again. So please check out auction item number 13, A Day at the Wildlife Center, Virginia. Mr. President, item number 17, I think, is the next one up, which is
and indeed, we've got 2 eagle releases coming up next week. You can find the details on the website. One on Monday is going to be at the Chip Oaks Plantation east of Hopewell, Virginia. The one on Wednesday will be at the Oak Grove Lake Park down in Chesapeake, Virginia. And the reason we're going so far from the Wildlife Center is we picked locations from which these particular 2 adult eagles were found, close to where they were found, so that they can return home on the chance that they are part of breeding pairs, so they can reestablish with their mate, reestablish their nest. But over the years, on a busy year, I may release 8 eagles, and in a slow year, maybe as few as 2. So far this year, in 2023, we have admitted 55 bald eagles, and the year is 2 months from being over, more than that. So we unfortunately see an awful lot of lead poisoning in eagles, but we have developed the therapies and the protocols to treat those that can be saved. We can't save them all. And unfortunately, many of the ones that we receive have to be euthanized or they simply don't survive. But when we get one that is ready to go back to the wild, it is a spiritual experience. It's a joyous celebration. And as our sponsor, you will join me in delivering this eagle back to the wild. Now, when people come along, I try to tell them to watch for certain things. So first of all, just getting the eagle out of the cage to be released is always animated and always fun. And my goal is to just not bleed in the process, because the eagles are often not really happy about being handled, having traveled for a certain distance in the car. But the moment of release, we talk to the crowd, and we expect some pretty good crowds next week. And if you can't come next week, this is not just to sponsor our releases next week. We've got releases going on a long time, and this will be something we will honor until you get to use it. But the bottom line is, when that bird leaves my hand, and in this picture, I've reached 3, and as I count down 1, 2, 3, and I'm ready to launch this bird into the air. And the first urge of this bird is simply to get away from me. So a lot of times when they fly off, they're looking back over their shoulder to see if I'm going to grab them again. And at some point within about 2 seconds, they realize that they're free. And you can see them stretch their wings. It's almost like the old days they talked about shooting your cuffs so people could see your diamond cufflinks. Well, these birds have a moment of recognition that they're free, and their whole demeanor and the way they carry themselves changes, and you'll never, ever forget it. I've done, hundreds of eagle releases, and each one is special. Each one stops your heart. Each one leaves a wonderful mark on your memory that you will never, ever forget. By sponsoring the release, you get to stand with me. We'll get you a picture with the eagle. You can help me get it out of the cage. You don't need to worry about being injured, but you might need to bring a Kleenex or 2.
It's a great experience. It's a great sponsorship opportunity. As Ed said, we're not asking you to turn around and do this on Monday or Wednesday. If this is something that we need to schedule down the road, we will do it. But check it out, auction item number 17. Amanda, Buddy picnic. Does that mean that you're serving Buddy at a picnic? Are you fixing a picnic for Buddy? Tell me more.
This is Buddy, our education bald eagle, hosting a picnic right in his area of worship, basically. So Buddy, for those people who haven't been to the Wildlife Center, Buddy has these lovely benches right outside his enclosure, so you can sit there with him. We often have our staff meetings out there, or at least departmental meetings. We can't invite Cara to our meetings because Buddy hates her. So we have outreach meetings out there. But yeah, this is a picnic with Buddy. So up to 4 people, you can join us. We will provide the lunch. The Wildlife Center will provide the lunch. We will also provide Buddy with his lunch, and Buddy will eat and you will eat, and you guys can talk and hang out. And the outreach staff will be around to answer questions about all of the ambassadors, our training processes, what we do, and it's just kind of a cool time to hang out. It is really neat to sit there over time, I think, and having these staff meetings out there to just watch him kind of like bop around and do his thing and choose where he wants to hang out and like choose what, like sometimes he gets very alert and he's like eyes on the building and it's one of the vet staff members just minding their own business, but walking by and he gets real mad. So it's a fun opportunity to have an extended period of time with him and eat lunch at the same time. I have also heard that there's a marigold, the opossum, at one of our education opossums. There's a tie. There's been a little bit of emphasis of trying to maybe get Connor this tie. Connor doesn't really have fancy clothes. He probably could use another tie, honestly. And maybe we could have him wear this tie to the picnic. So I'll just put that out there.
Yeah, well, actually today, Amanda, I had a very dear and old friend who is the head of the wildlife response program for the Humane Society of the United States. And we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, though we've known each other probably for 30 years. And he was in from Montana to Virginia and came for a tour of the Wildlife Center. And we went out to Buddy's cage and we just stood there talking, and just for whatever reason, getting to watch Buddy, he was preening all of his feathers. So all of his tail feathers, he very specifically would run his beak down each feather to line up all of the barbules. And by the time he was done and he finally shook all of his feathers, he just looked magnificent. But just watching him meticulously groom himself was great.
Yeah, they're really fun to just watch.
Picnic with Buddy, auction item number 4. Amanda, auction item number 3.
Yes, our newest baby. So we have a brand new Education Virginia opossum. She just joined the ranks of our education ambassadors this fall. She is a this year opossum. She was born earlier this year and after her mom was hit by a car, and she was taken to an at-home permitted rehabilitator. Unfortunately, she ended up being a bit too friendly for release, and she came to us. And of course, we always want opossums to go back to the wild, but we also do love having education opossums because they are like heavy hitters in the educational programming. They go on a lot of programs. People love opossums, or they think they don't love them, but then they do love them after they meet our opossums. So she's young in her career, and she's gonna have a big role ahead of her. Our outreach supervisor, Connor, has been working with her really closely, and they've really hit a good rhythm together for learning all of the steps. We bring, for now, the way we do education opossum programming is to bring a table and have them self-crate, and then we have them come out and eat their food on the table. So instead of trying to hold on to an opossum, which historically some opossums were okay with and would fall asleep, and others would, try and like squirrel out of your arms. Watching them come out on a table is really fun for people. It shows some natural behaviors. You get to see them eat and hear all their cute little noises and like see how they use their amazing hands and digits to pick up their food. So she's doing really well. She's done a lot of mock programs here. You guys probably saw her just before this finale as well, with Alex and Connor. So we're auctioning off naming rights for her. So the winner gets to choose what her name will be, and we will carry her name and share that story with thousands of people in the next few years.
Honor a family member, honor a friend, honor yourself. Auction item number 3, opossum naming rights, and that will close in about 28 minutes. So, Mr. President, I'm trying to keep the trains on the track. They're running a little late. Auction item number 2, I feel somewhat responsible for this auction item because I believe that I kind of helped encourage you to offer this item this year. And let me just say now that I believe this is likely to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't think that Ed's going to do this again, so don't be thinking I'm going to do this next year. This is the day. This is the year. This is the item. Mr. President.
Oh, this is definitely a one-off. So a lot of people who are friends of mine on Facebook see an awful lot of photographs that I post from my cabin, especially lately. I have this little cabin, and I'll tell you about that in a second, but around it, I have 52 acres of woodland in southern Pennsylvania, the location of which will be revealed to the auction winner only. It's a secret location, and the reason is I don't want company. I don't want people coming to visit me and hanging out and bringing me stuff. I want to be left alone when I'm there because it's my restorative place. It's where I go to recharge my batteries, reconnect to nature, and remember and remind myself why I helped co-found the Wildlife Center of Virginia and why I've devoted my entire professional career to environmental and wildlife conservation. When I was a little boy, my mentor, my hero, was my Uncle Barney, and he was married to my mother's oldest sister. So Uncle Barney and my Aunt Elaine had no children. They always wanted kids. They never had me. Apparently, I was a sufficient handful that my parents were happy to loan me out every weekend. So every weekend I spent with them and we went on adventures. And in 1958, when I was 7 years old, actually it was early in 58, so I was only a little over 6, we went to look at this land, and my uncle and aunt walked all over it. It was snow on the ground, and we walked all over this land and saw a piece of clear-cut woodland, but it had a lot of potential. And there's some interesting historical stuff there. The Southern Pennsylvania Railroad bed is there, never had a track laid on it. There's a whole history of the battle, the railroad battle between the steel manufacturers in Pittsburgh over moving steel and the railroad barons. And so it's all right there. But then it was all cut over wood. So from the time I was a little boy, and that's been a long time ago, my uncle and I worked on planting trees. We planted tens of thousands of pine trees. And some of those pine trees are now too big to reach around. I had one in the yard that fell that was almost 36 inches across. And it was a tree that I planted as a little boy, which makes me feel pretty old, but it also makes me feel pretty special. This place, as I said in the auction description, that David Thoreau had Walden's Pond, and Aldo Leopold, who wrote Sand County Almanac, a wonderful and magical book, had a little place called The Shack, and I've actually visited The Shack in Wisconsin, and they were the sources of their inspiration. This is my source of inspiration. If you want to know why I love nature, why I've committed my life to it, this is where it happened. So I will invite you to join me, and some of my friends have donated as well. This is what I refer to generously as my field office. And the field office is indeed the deck outside my cabin. And the deck is lighted at night, but in the daytime, it's pretty Spartan. I've actually got high-speed internet there. And so a lot of times when I'm on conference calls for the Wildlife Center or doing email or composing papers, I'm sitting right there. And it's wonderful to sit there far from the city, far from the nearest town, far from the nearest neighbor, and listen to the night sounds. If you come and visit, you will stay. People say, well, can we stay at your cabin? Well, that's a little problematic. My cabin has one room and one bed, and the dogs share it with me, so I'm not sure where you would sleep. But you will sleep at this lovely, it's called the Bedrock Cottage, owned by some friends of mine up there. It's on the Airbnb system, but they're taking it off the system to donate to you, so that it's about 15 minutes away from the cabin. You can stay there with up to 3 other people. This is a package for 4, so you can come in on day 1, spend the night there. You can come late, you can come early, doesn't matter, and spend the night. I'll provide you with a whole list of activities in the area. Then on the morning of day 2, you can come and join me at the cabin. We'll start doing as much as you want or as little as you want all day. I am, in addition to my bourbon expertise, I'm known as a pretty hot griller. And I will prepare for us a lunch that I guarantee will fill you up and make you happy. And then there are a lot of things we can do there. And then after that full day, you'll have the opportunity to come back here, spend a second night at Bedrock Cottage. And then on the final day, some of the other things we can do, a friend of mine in the area has a team of Clydesdales and traditional farm implements. So we can take you over there. You can go on a traditional wagon ride, 100-year-old farm wagon pulled by Clydesdales. And I can tell you that if you've never been near a Clydesdale, they're enormous, but they're also gentle giants. And the opportunity to go taste that type of closeness to the land is something that I'm sure will inspire you as well. We got lots of options, and I'll work with the top bidder to make this happen, but this is a one-off opportunity. This is my sanctuary, and I'm only sharing it one time, but this is the time. So you've got, it looks like about another 15 minutes to do some bidding. And if you are the top bidder, I promise you a good time.
Okay, folks, we have 190 items that are in that catalog. And we have about, 15 minutes left to bid, a little bit more than that. So I think we are going to bid you adieu. Mr. President, you may want to give us our official benediction here. But thank you so much for your help. Thank you for bidding. Thank you for bidding recklessly. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your support of the life-saving and life-changing work of the Wildlife Center.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, participants. We have, as Randy said, about 15 minutes left to go. Remember, this is a fundraiser, not a fire sale. And when you see the fair market value of these items, bidding up to that fair market value won't get you a full deduction. Bidding over that fair market value, every penny over it is completely tax deductible. So as you think about this stuff, it's not a matter of whether the item is worth X amount of dollars to you, but whether the dollars you invest in that item is worth X amount of good, X amount of service to wildlife, education of the public, and changing the world in which we live. I'd like to thank my colleagues for all of their work this week, especially this evening. I so love watching the Meet the Staff and the Meet the Animals and watching the absolute joy that my colleagues put into their work and get out of their work. And it makes all the difference in the world. But to all of you watching, to all of you bidding, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And especially, we look forward to your bids in the next 15 minutes, running those prices up. Good night.